Shalom. So today we're going to look at Mark chapter 5. Verse 1 says, "And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit." So you see, these type of spirit, they dwell in different places, especially dark places, right? It says, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him. So just imagine the force that would break the chain, break the chains, and not break his bones. You're dealing with bones against metals, iron, right? So if he can break that and his bones are still okay, you can imagine, right? So that's the force that is working inside of this man, and it's a multitude of them. His body is actually numb to everything. You know, when you start feeling the pain, your actual normal pain is when those spirits depart. Whatever happens, you start to experience it on a human level, right? And also, when people are possessed with these spirits, you have to be careful of how you deal with them, no matter how aggressive they get, no matter what they do, because they're not doing it in their right mind. It is the spirit that is manipulating their mind. So now what happens is their actual reality becomes an idea for them. It's not real. And what the spirits are showing them and telling them, that is their reality. So there's a crossing over. They left from this dimension to their dimension, and the spirits from that dimension crossed over into this dimension, and this causes this confusion. This is why sometimes when they talk, they sound very mixed up. Sometimes they may sound deep, because even though we know the devil is a deceiver, it's not with everything they deceive. Some things they give you in truth, some things are deception, right? So the individual who is possessed, they have to have that ability to discern with the aid of the people who are around them, right? Because the people around them are going to help them to say, hey, no, that is not true, this is true. But they have to be humble to fight that fight, right? To understand and discern. And that way you can actually communicate with the spirit inside of them from whatever dimension they are at. All right? So it says, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. It's hard to control him. It's hard to make this wild beast be tamed, right? Because what? Too many activities going on here. They're operating from a different dimension, right? And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones, right? So what is this crying? When these evil spirits sit in your temple, what they do is they make you feel guilty for everything. And now it plays on your conscience to say that, you know what, you actually deserve your punishment. This is what happened in their minds. This is why they will say, oh, I'm sorry I did this, I'm sorry I did that, oh, forgive me for this, forgive me. These are minor things that they're asking for forgiveness about. But guess what? The spirit, the unclean spirit, has already manipulated them to make them feel guilty of those things, and make them feel as if the punishment, they are worthy of the punishment that they are getting now, right? So that's what the crying is about. When you get into their head, that's the crying, right? And cutting himself with stones. Why? Because they feel they are worthy for whatever punishment. This is what's going on in their temple, right? But when he saw Jesus afar off, yeah, who is the he that saw that spirit, right? Who is it? Who is he that saw all those virtue and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice and said, what have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? You see, it's not the individual himself, it was that spirit that was inside of him recognized this man. And it's funny that he says, but when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran off and worshipped him. With my experience with this, it's the same thing, because this person, when he's acknowledging me, he refers to me as the Most High. And it's funny because no matter how aggressive he gets or whatever it is, or how he behaves towards others, he is in total subjection when it comes to me. Like, he will be spitting, and he will spit at everyone around him, and I'll be standing right next to him, touching him, but he will never spit at me. He doesn't do these things. He doesn't behave the way he behaves with others. When I'm in his presence, right, he behaves normal. But as soon as I leave, the very moment that I leave, then that monster comes forth again, right? So they know, they can recognize the spirit that is within a certain person, right? It's the same thing with my wife. When my wife comes around him, he does this, like, oh, not again, because he knows she's gonna come with prayers, and that spirit cannot take those prayers. It gives them torment. It removes a lot of them, the weaker allies. The strong man is still there, but the weaker ones, they have to go. So they cannot take the spirit that is on my wife. And when we, hold hands together and pray, man, it's a whole different thing that happens right there. Right? It says, I adjure thee by God, that thou torment me not. Oh, really? Adjure thee by God. Mm. So this is actually the demon. The demon is saying these things. All right? It says, for he said unto him, come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. That's all he said, to depart. Right? Mm-hmm. And he asked him, what is thy name? And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. Now, this is the thing about demons. They're not always lying, right? So, and it's funny that some people put their trust in these things that they have no loyalty, right? They will tell exactly why they're there, what they're doing there, and they will give a lot of information. But sometimes, like I said, you have to discern, because they're gonna speak both lies and truth mixed together, right? So while we were speaking with these demons, what we found out is that there's a strong man there on the inside, but that was not really the strong man. There was another one on the outside that was communicating with that strong man inside. Also, there were others with him inside. So we managed to get out a few of the weaker ones, right? But the strong man was still there. And he, of course, told us many things, right? Things we can relate to, things we can understand, you know? No, there was one incident that took place, how they gather strength, right? So what what he did was, he took the person and brought him to the sea, right? Went all the way out. We had to take two boats, fishing boats. We had to use two of them, go all the way out there for him. No, what happened is he gathered all those water entities, reinforcement, allies, right? When we managed to bring him back to land, we couldn't control him. He was 10 times stronger than the actual Samson of the Bible. That's how powerful he was. The only way we could have managed him was to get him off his feet. But as long as he was standing, there's no controlling him. You couldn't bind him to put him in chains or anything. We had to get him on the floor first, right? So that's how we get to bind his hands and his feet. So you have to know also what strengthens these demons and what weakens them, right? They'll ask you for things like cold water. They're gonna need cold water, because when you take them from their actual habitat, their place, this is not really their place, so it's hard for them to actually survive. So they need these type of things. So you have to know what you're actually giving them, what is making them weaker, what is making them stronger, right? It says, and he asked him, what is thy name? And he said, and he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many, because there are many of them there. And he besought him that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And all these devils besought him, saying, send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. You see, they are looking for a house, right? They are looking for a house. They need something to possess. And this is how it actually works. They have to be in a body, because that's the only way they can stay present in this dimension. And they have to manipulate things to get whatever result they want. So if they can manipulate the minds of people, or because they need somebody to use, right? And this is why you see, one of the main things when a person is possessed is for them to get that sleep. Once they can get the rest, then these demons will have no control over the body, because they take over your waking state. So the more you stay awake, is the more they will come on to manipulate and do the crossover, switching dimensions, right? And from there now they can start have work in your hands, your feet, everything, your tongue, whatever words come out of your mouth, they will be speaking it for you, right? And and all the devils besought him, saying, send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. And forthwith Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out, and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked into the sea. So you see, you can have a multitude of spirits, right? 7,000, 700,000, 70,000, whatever it is. It's a multitude of them, but there'll always be this strong one, and there'll be the weaker ones that are just there, that they're easily casted out, right? You can talk to them, you can pray, you can use your oils, whatever it is, right? You consecrate your oils with prayers and psalms, and you can get them out. But the stronger one, the strong man, first needs to be bind. Once you get rid of the strong man, then the others are the least, right? It says, and they that fed the swine fled, and told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was done. And they come to Jesus, and see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion, sitting and clothed, and in his right mind, and they were afraid. So what you actually see is that they just get into your temple, they get into your house, they possess it, they alter everything, they alter your way of thinking, they alter your reality, right? They alter how you perceive things and people, especially people who you love, because what they will do is try to make a division. So the very people that care for you, they want to turn you against them. So there's always this war, and every time you see those people, it becomes like there's a bitterness, and you want to attack your own people. So this is what they do in the mind, right? Like I said, it's a trading of places, which I'll do another video on that, where you are trapped between sleep and wake, and also trapped between fear and death. So what they actually do is make you afraid of going to sleep, because now you're believing that if you fall asleep, you're going to go into a state of death. And what that actually does for them is that once they get you to believe that, the more you stay awake, or the more you fight to stay awake, is the more they get to take control over your system, right? So this we will have to discuss on a different video, but it was just to go through this chapter so that we understand that these things are real. And sometimes we read some of these experiences, we cannot really relate or see the reality in it, because there's no connection. But when you have a first-hand experience with someone close to you, with something that you're emotionally invested in, then you're more connected to the experience. It's not the same as you're watching someone being possessed on the TV or somewhere over the internet or hearing something. When it's someone you are actually related to, it's a whole different level you're actually dealing with, right? So you'll see it more real, you see it realer, you see it more close, more personal. Everything is going to be different about the experience. And it's not only about what the spirit is doing to that individual, but also the stress that it inflicts on the family members and friends. You know, you watch everyone just crying, breaking down because they're seeing something, they're experiencing something that they've never seen before. You understand? So it's very tough, and it's necessary for us to sympathize sometimes and to try to understand other people's reality outside of what we perceive, because that is the case a lot of the times. We can't really relate to an experience just because we have not experienced it, we have not seen it, or anything like that. So sometimes we even try to say, no, it's not like that, or it's not so bad, or it's not so. Yes, it is bad, right? So one of the good thing is that with the incense, as we know, just as the incense go up, it's synonymous with your prayers going up. And the reason why it keeps burning in the temple and the fire should not be out is because these are scents, fragrance that these demonic forces cannot take, right? And I need to find back a precept here in verse 6. It says, but when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. You see, these spirits are very cunning. They'll get into this soft baby voice like and try to talk to you as if it's the actual person. But no, it is not. There is an angel of light, you know. It says, and cried with a loud voice and said, what have I to do with thee? So look at this. First it says, but when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. You'd think that it's the actual person in his right mind. But look what happens after. And cried with a loud voice and said, what have I to do with you? What do I have to do with you? Right? So you just see that transition right there. And this is how cunning it is. And if you are too emotional, you will fall for the wrong spirit speaking to you. Right? So it's very important for us to be able to discern and not fall prey to their soft voice, their crying and this and that. So while I was burning the incense, right, he started to get cunning. Um, no, it's affecting this person, it's affecting that person. Everyone was okay. The demon was not okay, but they're not gonna make it seem as if they are choking, right? Because they cannot take the fragrance of the incense. No, they start to make it seem as if other people around are, not safe with it, just to get rid of it. No, the incense was burning and they couldn't take it. You know what they did? They had to go away for a while. They had to leave for a while. And he slept peacefully while the incense was burning. Right? So we have to understand these things. And also, when you put the incense with your oil, consecrate them together, is very good for anointing because they really cannot stand it. Right? So your prayer is very important. You have to pray very often. Your psalms are very important for spiritual oppression. And like I said, people are very evil and they will go to whatever end they need to go to. They'll summon spirit from wherever they need, whether it be from the air, whether it be from fire, whether it be from earth, whether it be from water. All these dark entities, they will do whatever they want to do to get whatever outcome they need to get. And sometimes you don't have to do these people anything, right? So it's important for you to be mindful of who you let close to you, who you eat with, who you drink with, who has access to your clothes, because these are ways that they can get to you. They can get to your spirit through your physical, right? Just as you can get to the physical through the spirit, it works both ways. So it's important for us to be mindful of the favors people do for us, because you might know the favor, but you might not know the intention of the favor. And that's where the good and the evil is, with the intention, right? An action is always an action, but the intention, right? And this is where we mistake curse for blessing sometimes. All right. So here I say shalom.